Hi, good day, and thank you so much for being there for a new episode of the Microdose Diet. My guest today and my friend is Marcos Carvalho. So, Marcos is a serial entrepreneur. So, he exited this company in 2021. This company was called Nest Ready, was a co-founder, and it was a digital home buying platform for mortgage lender. So, yes, in the finance fintech space. Is now building and investing in the future of living and well-being, notably with his new venture, Boundless Life. So thank you for being here. My name is Peggy Van de Plassche. I'm a former venture capitalist and banker. Now I speak and write about the benefits of alternative medicine, including microdosing psilocybin. And you can read, watch, listen to my work on all the platforms, Substack, YouTube, and everything in between. So Marcos, thank you so much for being here today. I'm very excited to have you in the podcast.
Thank you, Peggy. It's such a pleasure. I've been following you and your work since the beginning, and it's amazing everything you accomplish. And thank you for, following this mission.
Thank you so much. And so it's funny because we were introduced by a common advisor in the fintech space. You also went from fintech to Fungi. So tell us more about your current activities in the psychedelic space.
Yes. So, first, how I transit from fintech to fungi, it's interesting. I come mostly from tech, right? I've past 12 years a tech entrepreneur, launched 4 companies, did the entire startup cycle a couple of times, from product ideations to scaling and exiting. And it's extremely difficult. It's very difficult, it's very stressful, as most people know. Long days, short nights, many spent sleeping on the couch of the office. And I think, I think it was Steve Jobs that said, like most rational people would not do it.
Exactly.
And that's how I felt. I didn't feel very rational back then. My life was very unstable, was a roller coaster. In the morning, I was excited. In the afternoon, I was depressed. And then I had to keep the smile on my face in front of the team and open space. It was very, very difficult. And I may have got a little crazy, in some ways, and I paid the price, and I realized that after divorcing for a second time in maybe 5 years. And then after that, I went through some dark moments and started to try to reconnect with myself, went back into life coaching, morning rituals, all of that. And that's when psychedelics start coming to me, they say they come to you, it comes to you, especially when we talk about, ayahuasca. And I became obsessed with the topic. I said, no, I can't believe it's that efficient about everything that, it's being said. So I really studied for 6 months. I really got, into it before I tried myself. And was life-changing. It was literally life-changing in a way that even my personality type changed, and that most people don't believe that it's possible. And I didn't believe that was possible either until I start kind of comparing my results. I'm a big fan of that 16 personality test.
Oh, yes. Okay. But it's so interesting because I think it's a journey I hear many people having in the psychedelic space. We are like this type A in the old chart, old saying, and then we suffer from that because I guess we get a bit hyper or a bit too excited, and you have that roller coaster. Then we all have psychedelics come to us. We do a lot of research because that's who we are. And
Exactly.
then we try it and we're just like, my God, it's life changing. How couldn't I not have tried that before?
Exactly.
And I think, and I'm sorry I interrupted you, but it is just that thing where you're just like, oh my God, maybe I could have tried that like 10 years ago or 15 years ago. My life would have been so much more successful and pleasant.
Oh, definitely, definitely. And I also think how I didn't know about that before, right? That was also the other thing. You know, I come from Brazil. I was born and raised. No, I was raised in multiple countries, but I was born in Brazil, and I used to hear about Santo Daime and ayahuasca, and a conservative country like Brazil, Catholic country like Brazil. For us, they were just like, crazy people drinking a
Yeah.
tea,
Yeah.
and that's how I started. And
Yeah.
it's a whole different thing. It has nothing to do with it. So yeah, I was
Yes.
that executive. I was that executive, observant, judging. And
Yeah.
then redoing my test, I became more of a protagonist, intuitive and feeling. And then I realized my values had changed.
Yeah.
And I realized, was what I was doing was in line with my life purpose, selling, helping financial institutions and banks to sell more loans and create more debt was just not what I was meant to do.
Yeah.
So so that's when I, was COVID and sold the company. Was able to, really work on a project that you mentioned before, that I actually exit my position, that project called Boundless Life, which is a beautiful project, much more aligned with my values, which
Yeah.
was creating hubs for digital nomad families in different parts
Yes.
of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it was aligned with my values because that's a way to help children raise awareness, openness towards other cultures, experience new cultures, have cultural immersion, and then be open towards the differences. And
Yeah.
that's what I believe in. It's like the biggest problem in humanity now. It's like this polarity. So if
Yeah.
you're able to raise kids, developing this openness, which is also very aligned with what I'm doing in psychedelic space, and the reasons why I actually very focused on the psychedelic space now.
Yeah.
And that made me move to BC and Vancouver because it's the mecca, it's the epicenter of the psychedelic renaissance, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And instead, this time, I'm taking a little break of launching companies, focusing also a little bit more on my wife's career. But I decided that because back in 2021, I already got involved in the space. I forgot to mention that because that's how I started getting to the industry.
Okay.
I helped some companies to raise money. Some went public, some got acquired. So that was a great school. But I saw the boom coming. 2021,
Mm-hmm.
there was a lot of hype, companies
Yes.
going public and not having anything.
Yeah.
So I decided not to invest myself back then. I mean, I did invest in some companies, but not to build my own project back then.
Mm.
Because I could see that there was a bubble. And then I went and spent 2 years in Europe helping build Boundless Life. But
Okay.
now I think the market is more mature. I think we're going to see some consolidation. Only the best companies are really surviving. And what I'm doing is that I'm bringing all my expertise, all the skills that I learned, scaling companies, accelerating companies based on
Yeah.
the startup cycle, learning some of the best tech accelerators in
Yeah.
the world, like Techstars, that I went to in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
And back then was really a big deal. We were the third Canadian company going to Techstars, the only one that survived it
Yeah.
before even Techstars was in Canada. So I was fortunate to learn a lot through doing my own ventures,
Mm-hmm.
being advised by some great advisors, being backed by top investors. And I started giving back and advising in some of the most prestigious accelerators in North America and Canada. And that's how we know each other, from Holt, investing some of those funds
Yeah.
and supporting some of those founders.
Yeah.
And what I saw in psychedelics is that most of those entrepreneurs, many come from academics or the scientific
Mm-hmm.
world, but
Mm-hmm.
they did not have the privilege to go through
Yeah.
those trainings, hard trainings that I went through. So that's how I'm getting involved. I'm really supporting entrepreneurs now in the clinical space, in the drug development space, through consulting, investing, and advising those that cannot afford to pay me.
Yeah, and thank you for explaining your journey. It makes a lot of sense, you know, to understand the different steps. And to your point, I can see, oh, as an entrepreneur in the fintech space, which financial services is extremely demanding, you know, like you're not winging it. There are a lot of regulations, and I mean, biotech is also with a lot of regulations. But what I saw in the space, you touched it in the past, is that scientists, academic don't necessarily make the best entrepreneur. So I would say your experience as an entrepreneur in the fintech space, what would you say, like in a few words, what is it bringing you and what is it bringing to the people you're advising, who, to your point, might not have had the privilege of going through that tough school?
Yeah, so in the financial space, a lot of learn about really how to scale business through B2B, right? Mm-hmm. So sales cycle is extremely long. For example, how do you get into a top 5 bank? Mm-hmm. You know, what's going to make you be the product that they're going to choose, and how you're going to transit all the, you know, bureaucracy and steps that you need to go through to bring your product and develop the product that you need or the service that you need that will eventually be a fit for those players. And then that mentality, for example, is helping some of my clients to generate more revenue, because, you know, you open a brick and mortar clinic, for example, and then what do you do now to attract your clients, right? Mm-hmm. How are you going to differentiate yourself? Yeah. Why is someone going to your clinic and not going to another clinic? So there are so many things you can do. For example, making sure that you have unique value propositions, that mm-hmm. you are distinguishing yourself, that you are creating your own category. And that category is something unique to the point that you're able to generate enough PR and become an expert in your domain, so you can focus on specific, you know, a specific niche or type mm-hmm. of clients, or offer the service in a specific way that you can easily scale the operation without just, you know, putting a sign outside the door and hoping that people will show up.
Yeah, you know, that's really that structure and, you know, understanding, okay, what's your CAC, what's your, you know, like all these things that, to your point, if you're SMB, you might not know that. You mentioned that you're thinking there will be some consolidation in the psychedelic space. Where do you think the space is moving towards? What are the opportunities you're capitalizing on and you're looking for?
Yeah, so going back, I really like the clinical space because I believe that that's the entry door for democratizing access to psychedelics. Psychedelics assisted therapy, I think, is the right way to do it with the right professionals. But those clinics are struggling because regulation is not keeping up. So there are a lot of and a few psychedelic assisted therapy focusing on ketamine, for example, right? I'm working with one right now that it's really, you know, a very talented therapist, and the clinic is called An Elegant Mind, for example, and she's combining sex therapy, couples therapy, which is, you know, something extremely important to improve the quality of life of families, with ketamine assisted therapy. And soon she's going to add MDMA assisted therapy when that's legal. And that becomes very unique. So now we are combining and integrating different types of therapy and combining that with psychedelics, creating that specific service and type of therapy that will service, you know, a specific clientele and have a great impact on society, because if you're able to improve the quality of life of couples, you improve the family life, therefore you improve the community and so forth. So focusing on making sure that those players can keep growing and innovate themselves, it's very important. So I see some potential there. I see, for example, there's this clinic in Calgary, Sabi, And their differentiator is that they are creating a very unique user experience. You know, you can tell that they thought about every detail from the moment you arrive in the clinic until you leave. You know, that's really a unique experience. And then they integrate in hospitality with integrative care, with wellness. So that's what I see the space, the clinical space going towards. And the drug development area, it's difficult because it requires a lot of money. You know, bringing your drugs to phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, it's very, very hard. And quite frankly, I don't see a lot of differentiation in the market when you are developing synthetic drugs. But, you know, depending of the purpose why you develop them and how you can demonstrate that they work for a specific purpose, and then, you know, you have an opportunity there. There's this company called Clairvoyant that I really like, and that they focusing on a cause that is very dear to my heart, which is alcohol use disorder. You know, I suffer from that in my own family, and that was probably the source of most of my traumas.
Yeah.
So being able to demonstrate specific usage and doing and financing your study, you know, study trials in different parts of the world, like they're doing, that put them in a separate category. Now, Philemon Health, for example, it's another one that I love because they're focused on developing drugs botanically. And that, for me, it's also a huge value proposition there. The entourage effect of the molecules makes a huge difference. And it's them, you know, we see now that the users prefer the natural approach. So it's all about how you position yourself. So yes, consolidation, but, you know, those who are able to keep financing their studies will have the competitive advantage, and hopefully they can last enough until regulation catch up.
And that's exactly, and that's probably my last question. And Canada or US. So what do you think the next, and I know everyone has his own crystal ball. So what is your crystal ball when it comes to a change in regulation? What do you see happening?
Yeah, that question comes a lot. I think we're super advanced because we have special access program. That's already, you know, we should be able to celebrate that. Unfortunately, it's a very difficult process to go through still. So we need to streamline it, and we need to rebrand it. It shouldn't be, you know, it should be for everyone. It should not be just for the rare and special access. So if we're able to do that, and you know, a lot have been lobbying, and the impact of, you know, civil disobedience, because we know there is a lot of gray market and gray activities in the market, and these people are making tons of money, you know, and they are attracting a lot of clients from the US and different countries. Even though it's expensive, you know, it's still cheaper than doing in Oregon or what they're going to be charging in Australia, for example. So those different players are also able to improve the access and then attract the attention of the authorities, that hopefully would say, oh, okay, well, we need to regulate that, right? I'm actually, one of the projects I'm working on right now that I'm very passionate about is how can I export what's being done in North America to South America? And I've been discussing that with a few players down there and a few investors down there, because, for example, Brazil, where I'm come from, it's a huge market. It's just a very conservative country. So I had a call, for example, yesterday with the CEO of the largest medicinal cannabis ecosystem there. And cannabis, it's illegal there, but they are able to develop this platform, or you can do everything. You can go consult with a doctor, get a prescription, and then take that prescription, send to the equivalent of Health Canada there, get it approved, and then buy your medicine all in one platform. So I hope something like that will be possible for psychedelics soon.
Yeah.
I just hope that, the drug will be delivered to the therapist,
Yeah.
so we can have a little bit more control. And that's I don't have a crystal ball, but as long as we go to the phase 3 trials, Compass is going to phase 3 in the US. I think the government, combine, the improvement in the clinical trials with the increase in the gray area activities, that's going to force government to move faster. And I hope that within, was supposed to be for MDMA, for example, end of this year, but probably in the next 12 months.
Probably, yeah. And, it's interesting because, to your point, the special access program, it's a start. It's a bit what you're seeing with, the veterans and some people are interested with end of life care. I believe that you and I also deserve, to be taken care of, and not
absolutely,
in 20 years, So so there is. I think now regulation is almost playing catch up, in the sense that the industry, to your point with civil disobedience, people have started saying, you know what, I'm an adult, I can manage it myself, and I'm okay to disobey. And disobey what? Legislation that were put in place 50, 60 years ago for the wrong reasons. That's also the challenge. So
yeah, and I'm not against everybody having access to it. I just think we should be able to have a little bit more control, for example, on the quality. We see dispensaries opening up in every corner now in Canada, and they making enough money to fight the system. Now it would be much better if we could know exactly what we're getting, who we're getting from, right?
exactly.
And decisions.
What's very interesting is that, and we had this conversation offline many times, that when you really put everything on the table, and the inconsistency with, alcohol, tobacco, ultra processed foods, and this type of thing that are inundating people, system. And to your point, I absolutely agree. You need high quality product. There is no too bad doesn't make a good, you need high quality product for everything. But I'm always very interested to see regulators focusing so much on psychedelics. And in Ontario, I mean, like, one of the thing in COVID was extending the hours of the LCBO, or local alcohol store. Now they have projects that they call alcohol in the park. So you bring alcohol, as long as you're 2 meters away from the kids, you're fine. Really? Really? Exactly. So it's that cognitive dissonance that I find extremely frustrating or interesting, depending on how you look at it. But
well, hopefully they see that there is a lot of money for them to make also with taxes eventually.
That's exactly
like, oh,
exactly.
Okay, so
that's the only way to make sure, a decision is made, is a business case. If you're showing, okay, that's going to be X billions in taxes, people are going to be suddenly more interested. But thank you so much, Marcos, for taking the time and sharing your journey, your perspective. It was like super helpful, and really appreciate you taking the time.
My pleasure. It was such a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you so much. Bye. Have a great day.
Bye, Peggy.